Okay, so it's looking good. It's an interesting angle. Um, and yeah, it's a nice composition there. Got the lighting is pretty thoughtful. I like the depth here. I think the graves are a little bit too uniform looking. I think in an older cemetery, I think you're more likely to see a wider variety of headstones. So, you can make maybe like six different ones and then mix them up and, you know, so they don't look so repeated. Let's look in Maya. Um, yeah, I think the ground texture looks pretty good, and the building texture is all right. Although maybe some more detail, and maybe show some of the seams in the marble. The other thing to look out for, particularly where a surface meets the ground, is additional detail there. So these lines where these meet don't look so great. So adding little tufts of grass, little rocks, and other things to kind of break up those lines, and those kinds of things can be really helpful. Some additional, just general additional plant life, more tufts of grass, um, you know, other weeds, or maybe some ivy would be nice, actually, putting some ivy up on the side of this thing to show some age, and maybe on some of these tombstones. But I think these could be a little bit more carefully placed. The way they look, sort of, they're just not that carefully placed. Some are sunken way into the ground. And gravestones can sink into the ground a little bit, but this is a bit extreme to have that many that sunken, and it's just too uniform. And I think you could, oh yeah, you've got them all over the place. So I think getting a little bit more variety on those, if they're going to be in a shot, um, and yeah, this is looking pretty stretched here. So if we're gonna, it doesn't like me smoothing that, but yeah, if that's gonna be there, I think you might want to work on that if we're gonna see inside of it. Although maybe it'll be so dark that we don't see it. But I also think maybe some additional geometry here, to get a bit of a sharper edge and more shape if we're going to see some of that detail. And I think you could do more with the texture of having, if this was a recently dug grave, of having dirt piled around, and getting more detail in the texture in that. Maybe that's a separate surface, of dirt piled around the freshly dug grave. So yeah, a few ideas to flesh it out. Overall, it's looking pretty good, but I think you could, go a little further with some of those things.